regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad you're with me on the program today. It's actually pleasant here in Central Virginia for once. Don't have anything to complain about. No rain, no high humidity. It's just a gorgeous July day. Hopefully get a chance to spend some time outside. But I am also grateful to be able to spend some time with you today. And Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation. He's going to be with us in just a second. We're going to talk about the case LASD, actually CRPA versus LASD. California Rifle and Pistol Association, the named plaintiff in this lawsuit, but the Second Amendment Foundation also a part of this. In fact, a coalition of Second Amendment groups filing suit against the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Originally Laverne, California as well, over the city of Laverne's high concealed carry fees. Now, the city of Laverne actually changed and reduced those fees as a result of this lawsuit. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, however, is continuing to delay the issuance of concealed carry permits. It has taken applicants, in some cases, more than a year to receive their permits, and things aren't getting any better. But there is some good news in this legal challenge. In fact, we're going to talk about it with Alan. Might sound kind of technical on its face, but this is actually a really, really positive step in terms of holding not only the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department accountable, but ultimately other jurisdictions around the country, around the state of California anyway, that are playing games with our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Take a look and a listen. Alan, thanks so much for coming on the program. It's good to see you again, sir.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Cam. I'm really excited.
Well, we would love having you here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person here in a couple months at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Salt Lake City. We had Mark Walters, who's going to be emceeing the event, on the program yesterday. So we're, continuing to. I didn't intentionally try to do this to keep the promotion going, but obviously, if folks want to attend the Gun Rights Policy Conference, we would love to have them there. And you can find out more information at saf.org, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's going to be a really great conference. We're expecting a blowout attendance. We got who in the gun rights movement is going to be there and speaking. We've got a couple state attorney generals coming in to speak as well about legal stuff going on nationwide, along with our attorneys. It's going to be an amazing conference, and I'm really looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing you too. It's been too long since we've been together face to face.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to go on a limb here. California Attorney General Rob Bonta will not be in attendance. Neither will Gavin Newsom, even though he says he's not anti-gun. I'm guessing the governor's not going to show up. But, we will be talking, I'm sure, about, the multitude of lawsuits that the Second Amendment Foundation is involved in California, including CRPA versus LASD, in which the Second Amendment Foundation, along with the California Rifle and Pistol Association, and a number of other groups, originally, they were challenging the, delays in processing carry permits in Los Angeles County. They were challenging the excessive fees being charged in Laverne. I understand the Laverne's actually modified their fees for concealed carry applicants as a result of this lawsuit, which is great. But the delays are still happening, not only in LA County, but the city of Los Angeles, too, from what I understand.
Yeah, we have over 50 lawsuits filed nationwide, and approximately a third of those are in the state of California.
Wow.
Which is obviously one of the biggest culprits going. But this current win we sort of just had in federal court in Los Angeles County is really great against the Sheriff's Department. They moved to dismiss our case, and the judge, by the way, who's a Biden-nominated judge, ruled against them and basically said that they were arguing as well that if it wasn't dismissed, only our lead plaintiffs should be allowed to get permits. And the bottom line was the judge said, no, the Second Amendment Foundation represents all its members, and all its members should be able to get permits. A lot of people have been waiting well over 6 months just to get processed, start the process. And so our suit is going to be great when it finally now gets heard on the merits. And we're really excited about it.
Absolutely. And that's hugely important, right? I mean, if the judge had granted the Sheriff's Department's request, that would have meant that, any relief that would have been provided as a result of this lawsuit would, again, as you say, be limited to the named plaintiffs only, right? So I don't know how many tens of thousands of members there are of the Second Amendment Foundation in California, but this now opens the door. Whatever happens, again, with this case on the merits, SAF members who live in Los Angeles County who have applied for their concealed carry permits, even if they're not officially a part of this lawsuit, they're going to benefit from the result.
Correct, but not only those who live in LA County. We won a lawsuit against the state of California where they wouldn't give permits to people who live out of state. And now people living out of state, because we won, can apply in Los Angeles because there's a point of entry with LAX airport. Lots of people travel through California through Los Angeles. So now a lot of people all across the country can get permits in Los Angeles.
That's true. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that aspect of it because I rarely visit California. I try to stay as far away from there as possible. Living on the East Coast, that's pretty easy to do. But yeah, you're right. As a result of this lawsuit, that was one of the challenges, right? I mentioned Laverne, I mentioned LASD, but one of the other challenges was against Rob Bonta, was against the state of California for not having any way for a non-resident to lawfully bear arms in the state, right? Because non-residents couldn't get a permit. And the state of California didn't recognize any permits from out of state.
Correct. So now we've really opened it up even bigger, so to speak. And when we win this, of course, I think what's going to probably happen is Los Angeles will just say, okay, well, we're going to honor everybody, not just SAF members or CRPA members, because they're, along with us in this suit. But basically, for equal protection under the law, so to speak, my guess is that everybody will get processed in a very timely manner.
Boy, I hope so, because as you say, I mean, waiting 6 months to even hear back that they've started the process. And in the city of Los Angeles, what we're hearing is the LAPD is actually saying that it's taking 18 to 22 months to process applications. And there have been reports that they're sitting on these applications. They're not even counting the time that they're just hanging on to it until they start working on it. When they pick it up and say, okay, we're going to start working on it now, they say the clock starts, but that could be 4, 5, 6 months after somebody submits their application. Do you think that this lawsuit, because LAPD is not named specifically, right? This is against the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, but we know that there are abuses taking place across the state. Is this kind of a warning shot to those other agencies? Get your act together, or else you're going to face the same lawsuits?
Yeah, and we've also got suits against other jurisdictions in California already as well. And there'll be, I'm sure, a whole lot more will be filing in the next year if they don't comply. But this really is thumbing your nose at the Bruin decision from the Supreme Court, because if you don't, they now have to issue them. But if there's no timeline of when they get issued, it's basically, your right delayed is a right denied. And it also discourages people from exercising their Second Amendment rights, because if you know it's going to take you 6 months, 18 months, why bother?
Absolutely. And if you try to exercise your right in the meantime, you can get arrested. You'll be charged with a crime. That happened, I think, to a member of the U.S. Coast Guard. He was caught with several legally owned firearms. He has a application pending in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles. But he was arrested, charged with illegally carrying a gun. His attorney said, listen, can't we divert this? I mean, he's trying to be legal. And so far, the judge has denied that request. So, it really is a legal catch-22. Until you have that government-issued piece of paper in California, you cannot exercise this fundamental right. And in the meantime, whether by design or unintentionally, these delays are lasting far longer than what's allowed under California law, right? I mean, that's the thing. California gives these agencies 120 days to approve or deny an application. And LASD, I mean, they're just blowing right by that deadline.
Yeah, they're in violation of the law, and that's what our suit's all about. And again, what we're looking at here is that they're using their administrative powers, so to speak, to circumvent the law and to deny people their right of self-protection. It's a violation of civil rights and constitutional rights, and we're going to hold them to the fire in courtrooms all across the state.
I know that LASD, LAPD too have said, listen, it's about the budget, right? We just don't have the staff to handle all of this. Legally, that doesn't really matter, right? I mean, if they have an obligation under the law to do something and they're not meeting that duty, why can't they reassign staff to the licensing division so they can actually comply with the law?
Exactly. That's what the law mandates them to do, and they're just refusing to do it. But they have plenty of money for other things that's on their, pet list, so to speak.
Right.
But they hate guns, and they're not about to do this. The other option is let people carry without a permit, like a lot of our constitutional carry states all across the country, and then they wouldn't have the problem. They wouldn't have to spend the money on their budget.
Absolutely. But boy, it'll be a cold day in Southern California before lawmakers in Sacramento adopt constitutional carry, at least willingly. But it is, listen, it is worth noting that Gavin Newsom, who, again, says he's not anti-gun, he hasn't come out and objected to this. He hasn't said, hey, LASD, get your act together, right? He hasn't said that people's rights are being violated because of these lengthy delays. He hasn't said anything at all about this.
No, and I'm sure if he applied for a permit, he'd get his rather quickly.
Oh, I bet.
Unlike the rest of us.
Right? Yeah. Elected office has its perks in California. Well, listen, I appreciate the Second Amendment Foundation fighting for the little guy and the little gal who are not politically powerful and connected like Gavin Newsom. This is a right of we the people, and that is a right that the Second Amendment Foundation is fighting for, as you say, all across the country with more than 50 active lawsuits right now. Folks want more information about the legal work that SAF is doing. Again, saf.org. Alan, I know we'll be talking again very soon, but thank you so much for your time today, sir.
It's always my pleasure, Cam, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Gun Rights Policy Conference shortly at this point. September will be right around the corner.
Right, I know. We'll see you in just a few weeks. Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation joining us here on Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My thanks to Alan for being with us on the program. Looking forward to talking to him again soon, and looking forward to seeing him at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Salt Lake City in late September as well. We talked with Mark Walters about that yesterday, but of course, Second Amendment Foundation is sponsoring the Gun Rights Policy Conference, over 30 years of GRPC. All right, let's turn our attention now to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll stay in California for this. Here's the headline. Man who allegedly killed Oakland parole agent has decades-long criminal history. This from KTVU, Fox 2 in San Francisco. According to authorities, Brian Keith Hall allegedly shot and killed Oakland parole agent Joshua Lamont Byrd at the parole office there in Oakland. Hall has been charged with murder, as well as special circumstance of murder of a peace officer, and he could face life in prison without the possibility of parole in California, which does not have the death penalty. The Fox affiliate reports that newly obtained court documents show that Hall has an extensive criminal history stretching back nearly 30 years. First convicted in June of 1996. By the way, 10 previous convictions in all. First convicted in June of 1996 of second-degree robbery in Alameda County when he was about 19. He got a second conviction about 9 years later in 2005 in Alameda County for possessing a controlled substance for sale. Then again in 2007 for possessing crack cocaine for sale. Arrested and convicted in Alameda County in April of 2011 for being a felon in possession of a firearm. 2 convictions in Stanislaus County in April 2015 for unlawful driving or taking of a vehicle and for evading officers. 2 years later, in November of 2017, he was again convicted in Stanislaus County of stealing a vehicle and evading arrest. He also was convicted that year for assault with force likely to produce great bodily injury. None of those convictions kept him in prison for a long amount of time, but perhaps the most egregious evidence of California's soft on crime policies is that his final conviction took place earlier this year, January 7th, once again in Alameda County, about 6 months before Byrd was murdered. Hall was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon. This guy is a violent career felon, convicted of a violent felony offense, and he wasn't sentenced to years in prison. Why on earth was Hall out on parole rather than being behind bars? This is absolutely ridiculous. By the way, in addition to the murder of the parole agent, Hall has also been charged with robbing a woman who was riding a public bus that authorities say he actually took from the crime scene. By the way, concealed carry not allowed on public transportation, so good luck defending yourself against violent predators there. Oakland police say he then stole a Ram cargo van, ditched it a couple of miles away, threw an orange safety vest and a 9mm handgun into a trash can. Despite all of California's gun control laws, Hall apparently, allegedly, had no problem whatsoever getting his hands on a gun. Unlike, lawful gun owners who are finding it exceedingly difficult to exercise their right to carry and protect themselves against violent predators. All right, today's Armed Citizen story from, I believe this was, I want to make sure, yes, Florence, Alabama. You got a couple of towns in the country named Florence. So the headline, grand jury finds shooter acted in self-defense. Teen accomplice indicted for role in Florence 13-year-old's death. This happened back in March at an apartment complex. According to the Florence police, the 13-year-old who was shot and killed was trying to rob an individual along with another juvenile. And that target of the robbery had a firearm and was able to protect themselves. No information has been released about the victim in this case because they've not been charged with a crime. But in addition to a 13-year-old Rylan Calvert being shot and killed, now police have charged his alleged accomplice, 17-year-old Cameron Finizzi, with felony murder and first-degree robbery. Finizzi, by the way, had his bond set at $100,000. He was released with a GPS ankle monitor. We know how well or not those ankle monitors work at actually keeping people monitored. But there you go. According to the prosecuting attorney there in Lauderdale County, grand jury heard from 17 witnesses, decided that, again, the victim in this case acted in self-defense, will not be charged. They also found that Finizzi legally responsible for Calvert's death, which is why he was indicted for felony murder, and he will be tried as an adult. Finally, today, our good deed of the day, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing, and also an armed citizen story in its own right. Suspect shot by Good Samaritan during an attempted robbery at a local McDonald's. The local McDonald's in question in Cleveland, Ohio, East Cleveland, Ohio. The police department there investigating after a suspect was shot during an attempted robbery last night, Tuesday evening. According to Mayor Lateek Shabazz, officers responded to the McDonald's on Euclid Avenue and Eddy Road. There were multiple reports stating that a man with a gun was holding up the fast food restaurant. According to WJW-TV in Cleveland, Ohio, a preliminary investigation revealed that the suspect was trying to hold up the fast food place when he was, quote, fired upon by a Good Samaritan. That is what the mayor described the armed citizen as. Suspect was taken to a local hospital for his injuries. The Good Samaritan was not at the scene when officers arrived, according to city officials. The case remains under investigation at this time. Not known why the Good Samaritan took off. Maybe not legally allowed to possess a firearm. Maybe just didn't want to get involved. I don't know. But in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing to save a restaurant full of patrons and employees. And that anonymous Good Samaritan who exercised his judicial, I shouldn't say his, we don't know the gender of this unnamed Good Samaritan, their judicial use of a firearm, judicious use of a firearm, not judicial. We thank them for their very, very good deed. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company, and I want to thank you, as always, for being a part of the program. We're going to be talking with Mark Oliva from the National Shooting Sports Foundation on tomorrow's show, but be sure to check out BearingArms.com throughout the day. We're keeping you up to date on all of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation, and even some international stories, because the gun control movement doesn't just stop at the U.S. border. No, no, no. In fact, they're much more successful outside of the United States. All right. Have a great rest of your Hump Day Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.